You are now tuning in to the Going North podcast with your host, best-selling author, professional speaker, and member of the John Maxwell team, Dominic Dom Brightman. And every Monday and Thursday, we're going to hear the voice of a different author sharing their gifts, stories, and expertise to help you charge forward in life. Now let's get on with the show. And today on the Going North podcast, where we bring you some fabulous humans from across the globe. Today is no different. Well, actually, it is kind of different because we've only had one other guest with a Goalcast video that's inspired thousands of people. Well, this person today, this one's inspired millions with their Goalcast video as well because he has one heck of a powerful story. This wonderful human right here, in addition to being an author, is also a motivational speaker as well as a top-rated podcast host that can be heard all over the world, that has some superstar fabulous guests. And not only that, this wonderful author right here is just one heck of a powerhouse, because when you hear his story, you're going to be like, oh my goodness, like, dude, like I need to get up from this darn couch or this chair and become the best version of myself. Heck, that even if it's a palm tree, you're going to be wanting to become the best version of yourself. So let's give it up for the one, the only, Mr. RT himself, not retweet, Mr. Rock Thomas. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. I feel blessed to be able to do this during what we're going through and to be healthy and well. So yeah, feeling wonderful. Thanks.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, sir. And thank you for what you do, man, because one thing I missed in the introduction is that you founded the M1 company and that you have something new that I've never heard before. Fulfillionaires, man.
Yeah, I've been in personal development for 30 years, and you start to see patterns, and you see patterns of what makes people have lasting change versus just change for the sake of change. Like somebody can lose 20 pounds, gain 20 pounds, lose 20 pounds, and lose 100 pounds in a year, but be at the same place. And there's some people that, they read a book and then they go in a direction, but they always come back to their home, which is not really evolving. So I created a community which creates accountability, which allows people to transform and sustain the transformation. And it's really been, rewarding, because when you're in personal development, sometimes as a speaker, you go speak and you hope people change, but you never really get to know. But when you're part of an ongoing community, you see the changes, you see the transformation, you see the people fall down, you help them get back up. So it's been a very, very rich and rewarding experience.
Heck yeah, for all the Richards too, I bet.
There's a few of them, that's for sure. And they're feeling richer.
Yep, the corn does await here. But yes, indeed. It's great that you're doing that, and I love the fact that you mentioned sustainable, because that's something that everyone truly desires, because once they get that goal, like the whole lose 20, gain 20, or heck, even lose 20, gain 40, it's like, oh God, where the heck did I go wrong?
True. A lot of times people don't know, and because most people are around other people that don't really know, they end up, all stumbling around trying to grasp onto something. And I'm so fascinated about how much I continue to learn about how much I don't know. And I've recently become a vegan, and I thought I ate really well for years, but then I started to learn a lot about what I didn't know, started to make some new choices, feeling better. So I'm just always curious about what what else don't I know? And for people that are out there, you're struggling financially, you're struggling spiritually, whatever, there's probably something you don't know. And in this time of pandemic, I think is a really great opportunity for people to look at themselves and go, how am I doing? When a crisis comes along, am I nimble? Am I healthy? Am I able to help other people? Or am I responding, freaking out, worried, can't pay the bills, relying on government? Where are you? And how do you want to go through this? How do you want to come out the other side?
That's true. It's kind of like really keeping that focus on what you want to get out of something as opposed to how you're going to get through something.
I mean, don't you think that life is a virtual gym? Everything that comes to us is an opportunity for us to grow mentally or emotionally or spiritually. And right now, the world is being slapped with a CrossFit boot camp for everybody. And some people are like, I'm 80 years old and I can't, do 12 pull-ups. And as sad as harsh as this is going to sound, then this new epidemic has said, well, then you're not going to pass the test. You're going to be in emergency care and you may not even make it. And other people are like, okay, well, now you got a boot camp of you have no revenue for the next 3 months or negative revenue. How are you going to survive? And somebody goes, no problem. I've got two years saved. I'm good. Another person's like, I'm screwed. I'm freaked out. And this is what's going on right now.
Yeah, exactly. Especially with the CrossFit reference, because I'm like, oh man, especially with the whole 15 girls of doom, or at least the evil X's of doom.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, I think it's time for a brave new world and for people to be highly suggestive to adapting and looking for what the new world's going to bring us. And it's exciting, scary times. So it's time for us to stay connected and to have these really frank conversations. What do you think?
Amen to that. Especially the Steves and the Shirleys got to have these frank conversations.
I didn't know this was going to be a comedy.
Yeah. Yeah. The good comedy. But yes, indeed, man. It you're definitely right about that, and it's so true. It's so powerful. Like this is the time where you're gonna see how well you've prepared for obstacles to come, or heck, even funny enough, I think it was it was yesterday. I was looking at this great video by Valuetainment, wartime leaders versus peacetime leaders,
Okay.
and it was talking about how Patrick McDavid shared the story about how this one general was giving this great rah-rah speech, and after he was done, a couple of the privates and some of the folks gave him a nice little ovation, but it wasn't like a huge ovation. And then the guy who followed him was a lot more soft spoken, but he was sharing his more of his experiences in battle, and everybody just gave him a roaring applause because he has been through a bunch of wars and he actually had that experience to back up what he had. So it's kind of like now where folks are going to be testing whether they can handle this quote unquote wartime versus those who can handle the peace times where it's like, okay, one bad decision. It's like, okay, we'll just come back to the office tomorrow and we can figure it out later, as opposed to wartime where it's like you have to make a quick split second decision where it could be life or death.
Yeah. I mean, the interesting thing is we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know how deep this is going to go. So it's about like wartime. Every day you wake up and we've got an attack coming over here. Transition, move. Oh, we're out of food. We're out of ammunition. How do we adapt? Okay, well, we're going to eat this instead, or we're going to go hungry for a while. Oh, the body can survive for a while without food. Interesting. So it's going to be one of those, it's going to be one of those cases. It's going to be very fascinating. I'm really curious to see how we come through this literally as a world. For the first time in my life, I feel like the whole world is in something instead of just regionally. I come from a province of Quebec where there was times we were trying to separate from the rest of Canada. And that was our reality. The rest of the world didn't care, but it was intense for us. Well, now this is intense for the whole planet. It's quite fascinating.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of like, all right, we all got to suffer together, folks. Nobody's
Yeah,
immune. Nobody can escape.
exactly. And in fact, the more that you're not aware of what's going on, the more damage you can do to the person beside you if you have it, you're not aware, etc. So it brings a lot of different things into play that can be carried forward into your life. We're always preparing for something. And how prepared are you for the things you're preparing for? Are you preparing for wealth? Are you preparing for illness? Are you preparing for winter? What are you preparing for, and how is that going? And I always like the idea of front loading. It's like if I knew I was going to move in 3 months, I would start packing 2 boxes a day. If I knew that I was going to go on a trip in 2 weeks, I would, open up my suitcase and, I'm going to need some underwear. I'm going to need some socks. Throw those in there. And so I would like to be ahead on different things so that if something came up that was urgent, I wasn't like, oh my God, I have to pack now and I have half an hour the flight leaves. I have to do my taxes in 2 days and I don't know where everything is. I have to stop the presses and do all that. Nice to be ahead and prepared, which means you have to have a vision. And that requires a skill set of, meditating and thinking and marinating on what's important to you. And these are all things that are good for business and good for your relationship and good for crises like this, I think.
And it's a great thought process because it's true. If you front load ahead of time, you'll be prepared. Preparing for those moments of preparedness, like you said earlier.
Yeah, I mean, in life, you're going to have things that you can do in advance. If your garbage is due on Thursdays and you don't put it out until Thursday morning, when you could have put it out the night before, and you didn't make your lunch and snacks, and you wake up in the morning a little bit late, and now all of a sudden it's raining and you got to put the garbage out and you got snack and you're running this is how most people live their life. They don't really front load, and front loading will make you look good. It will give you the chance to take advantage of opportunities that other people haven't had a chance to say yes to because they're so busy just trying to make their own lunch.
Yes, indeed. Because now it's like, all right, it might become lunch or even dinner. Oh man. But
Cool.
yes, indeed, though. And the powerful thing what I love about you is that with this whole front loading talk is that you actually have this process where you actually helped over 30 people to become millionaires, but not just the regular millionaire that sacrificed their health and their relationship. You talk about creating a whole life millionaire. Mind going deeper into that?
I think that pain creates passion and purpose until vision takes over. And
Mm.
I can only come from my own experience. And I worked very hard. I grew up on a farm and I worked really hard. And I wasn't as good as a father and as a husband as I could have been in situations. And I pursuing freedom. I was the youngest of 7 kids, and I felt like money was going to solve a lot of problems, which it does. But if you alienate the people that you care about the most along the way, if you don't take care of your health along the way, then you end up being, a problem for society and a burden. And I witnessed a lot of people, 45, rich, divorced, diabetic, overweight, heart attacks, whatever. And a lot of them worked for me in my real estate offices. And I thought, that sucks, man. Great. I'm handing you a trophy on stage. Everybody thinks you're the bomb, but I know your inside story. I know your sorry story, your shame that you feel. And I had parts of it too. So when I looked at that, I thought, this is not what it should be. We can do better than this. And so if I help people become successful with their businesses, which have a very good strategic mind, because I was the youngest of 7, I was forced to find, things that I could create out of nothing. And I've become very good entrepreneurial that way. And then I thought, what if I layer in there a practice of health and vitality and a conversation around that and attention to that? My father died at the age of 62 to cancer, and I became really quite passionate about learning what not to do to follow his path. And so I started to share that with people. And then I started to look at what are some of the areas of conversation that people struggle with their spouses and their kids, et cetera. And so we sprinkled all of that into a community where you become a whole life millionaire. And that's where you learn how to not trade time for money, but to develop your vision, your skill set, help people in the world through that, and leverage them either to work with you, for you, and or to develop passive income vehicles so you're not trading time for money. And then you have more time to work on yourself or spend time with family or stay in shape. So that's the community we created. If somebody is really passionate about growth, they're growth based, they are hungry to learn, they're open to feedback, and they want to live, the best version of themselves, well, then we have an ecosystem that allows them to tap into that.
Amen to that. Yes, indeed. That's right. Tap into yourself and create your BLE, the best life ever. Yes, indeed.
That's right.
Yes, indeed. And it's good that you're doing that, because I feel like that's the main point that a lot of folks miss when they may even have that vision or even want to get that goal, but they may sacrifice their health and their families in the process.
Yeah, and I don't think that they do it intentionally. I think it's a lot of time it's a lack of knowledge and lack of community. We all thought that when information would come out on Google that, you could just Google anything, how to get fit, how to eat well, how to run a successful business, how to sell things online, how to write a book, and that we could all then, nothing would hold us back. The access to information would not hold us back. But the fact is that there are other elements at play: the psychology of an individual, the fear of failure, how your amygdala runs most of your life without you knowing it. And those decisions are 90% fear-based, survival supported. But until you get the right indications or tools in order to navigate through how your brain paralyzes you, you're going to operate from a small capacity of what you are capable of. So you've got to get into a rich environment, like Kobe Bryant put himself close to Michael Jordan, like Tiger Woods put himself in an environment with the best coaches consistently and reinvented himself multiple times. So you got to be hungry to learn. We're in a very, very fast-paced changing world. But as an example, in school, they don't teach you how to budget. So most people have a bad relationship with money. Even if they make it, like a doctor, most of them are terrible with their investments. So they don't actually get to that point where they really feel free. They just feel like they're a little bit better than the guy down the street because they drive a nicer car, have a nicer house. But if you talk to most people, about 80% statistically are unfulfilled. So I'm in the fulfillment business. I'm like, how do we get it to a place where each day is meaningful for you, where you feel alive, and where you have a plan that's actually going to leave you in 3, 5, 10 years in a place of a high level of freedom? And people are excited about this kind of a possibility.
Heck yeah, man. That's right. Because folks want to live in that true fulfillment zone and actually sustain it and maintain it. And heck, even listening to one of your past interviews and learning that you're into fitness, I was I was laughing my butt off at first because you mentioned how you're in line at a airport and you're doing squats to make the time go by, and it's like, wow, like, dude, my man is efficient with his time. So, what probably led you to keep that in mind, to keep your fitness in mind, and truly staying open to doing workouts when the opportunities present themselves outside of the gym?
There's a few things, and that's a great question because it comes down to personal standards. And the one thing I learned from Tony Robbins is that when you're committed and creative, there's always a way. When you're committed and creative, there's always a way. So I was once on a boat with him in Italy, and I wanted to get my workout in, and there was no gyms around. So I went up to the top deck and I started doing, push-ups in between the patio furniture, curls with some of the chairs, squats. And I just was, how do I find a way to get my workout in? So it was really about that. And then the joy of no net time, making the most of what most people go, I'm going to kill some time, I'm stuck here, was to be creative and say, hey, you know what? I'm pumping gas in my car. I could also bang out 25 squats and maximize my time and feel good about it. You know how many times we have to fill out a form and write in our address and our name, whether it be on a plane and customs, etc. Every time I find myself going, oh my God, this stupid form, I got to fill out my address. Are you kidding me? I immediately break into an interior dialogue about gratitude. I have a trigger. It says, I'm so grateful that I'm in a place that I get to be well and capable, and that somebody needs my information to take care of me or to know what my business is and to be safe and to go through this. So I trigger myself to not feel pissed off because that's my natural tendency, but to feel blessed, grateful, etc. So I'm trying to squeeze the most out of my life in as many situations as possible and not worry so much about what people think while I'm doing yoga at an airport, but more, what is it that I would do if I really, didn't care about what other people were thinking? And it's usually a completely different result. And that result means that, hey, you know what? I did travel for 36 hours, but I'm in great shape and I feel good and I feel good mentally. And then it gives me an edge on people. It gives me an edge on life. I'm further down. While other people go, oh, I haven't worked out for 2 days. I'm like, man, I got my workouts in and I feel great. So for me, it's about how do I live my best life through creativity and commitment. And I think it's Einstein said that knowledge is not, the ultimate power in life, and I'm paraphrasing, it's your imagination. So I get excited about employing my imagination to find ways to live my life fully.
Employ your imagination. I don't think I've ever heard it eloquently said like that before. That is great right there, because that's make imagination your employee, because it can work for you, and it's obviously work for you to keep yourself healthy like that.
Yeah, and again, remember, pain breeds passion and purpose until the vision takes over. My father died of cancer. I went and studied about health, and I learned that my father didn't exercise, he ate poorly, and he had a negative, serious attitude. So I did the three opposites. I exercised regularly, believe it or not, usually around 2 to 4 hours a day. And that can involve biking, swimming, golfing, yoga, meditation, what have you. And I'm a vegan now. I eat, what my grandmother ate, basically that comes from earth, not from a package. You'll be amazed at how little you need to eat to survive. Amazed. Most people have no clue. They eat until they're full. And I try to have a fun, loving, playful attitude, because a serious pessimistic attitude creates acid in your body, and acid is, something that's used to create cancerous cells. So you start to learn these things and benefit from them. And then again, I have an edge. I'm 57 years old, but when I go speak, I usually challenge 22 and 25-year-olds to a push-up contest, and I usually kick their ass. And I do it right in front of, I'll do it in front of the entire audience and on the moment with anybody. Why? Because I'll never lose. If the kid beats me and he's 22 years old and I'm 57 and he does 82 push-ups and I do 59, I've just fired myself up. I've engaged my life. I'm fully alive. My soul is pumping, and I've made him feel good because he challenged the speaker. And if I beat him, then I'm like, dude, what do you want to pull from this? I'm an old, bald man, and I'm kicking your ass. And so, I try to be fun with the things in life, and it's possible for all of us to, I think, level up and choose a part of your life that you want to level up in, and let's go. Surround yourself with people that are a little further down the road than you in that area.
Amen to that. And you're definitely a role model for me in that aspect, man. When it get up there in age, you just want to be one of them really sneaky fit older guys that can really give the young folks a nice ass kicking. If funny enough, even though 50 is not really old for today's standards, but still remember this one interview, one guy, he was like, yeah, you better watch out for these old guys, especially those war veterans. They got one ass whooping left to give, and they're waiting to cash it in on somebody. In this case, it's multiple with the push-up contest.
Exactly.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So, since this isn't your first rodeo, is there a question that you wish more podcast hosts or radio hosts would ask you more often when you're doing interviews like this?
That's an interesting question. I think, you get the typical ones, what would you tell a younger version of yourself, and what's the greatest quote you ever heard, or what's the most empowering thing, or your greatest mentor. I would say that what is the secret to success when you feel like you're stuck. And I think a lot of people feel stuck. They feel like they're so far behind, or they've lost, like, they're not in shape, and their bank account's not in shape, and their relationship is not in shape, or they're not in a relationship, and they've settled for some crumbs. And the answer to that question for me is what I call the 1% rule. Just try to get 1% better in one area. Pack that one box if you're going to move in 2 months. Don't think, oh, I'm not in the mood, it's not going to make a difference. If you haven't worked out for a long time, walk to the end of your driveway and back. The next day, do it twice, and then do it 3 times. And in 30 days, you might be walking for 30 minutes. The incremental progress is so powerful. And it can create momentum in people's lives if they're just willing to do a small thing that they think is insignificant, but then stack on top of it. And then they get to be their own hero. But most people, what they do is they go, oh, God, I'm $30,000 in debt. I don't have a job. I'm not in a relationship. I don't feel like working out. I guess I'll watch Netflix and call a buddy over, instead of taking that one little step. So to me, that's one of the keys to transformation, is to be really kind and gentle to yourself, but to take the small little step and then to add to it the next day.
Love that answer. Love that answer. Yes, indeed. And it's so true about that 1% rule. I think it was Steve Sims who mentioned that in his book, Blue Fishing, as well. I mean, it's not original, but it's so darn true that we need to always remember and never forget, is to try to get at least 1% better, because that's something that everybody can do.
That's right. It's 100% right.
That's right. Nobody's exempt, baby. That's right. You too can be 62 and beat all the folks that are in their 20s and 30s in a push-up contest. That's right. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Woohoo!
Mm-hmm.
Well, fabulous indeed. Fabulous indeed. We'll probably get 2 more questions, and then you get to make a run for it. So you got this awesome podcast called the I Am Movement Podcast. So what inspired you to start it, man?
So about 14 years ago, I wrote a book called The Power of Your Identity. And in that book, I talk about the fact that we're all given labels, suggestions as to who we are. You're shy, you're too short, you're funny, you're clever, you're ugly. And many of them are not true. Many of them are just the perception of somebody else, or their desire to protect you. You didn't speak much as a child, so your parents labeled you as shy, and then you took that label on for the rest of your life. And now you live a limited version of yourself. So when my Goalcast video came out, and I talked about the labels I changed from pizza face to ruggedly handsome, from working hard to working smart, from being a taxi driver and a laborer to being a business person, without really any formal education, high school, yes, without really any help from my parents or my 6 siblings. I thought, if I could transform and become a better version of myself with the exposure to the right mentors and to the right knowledge, just with a good work ethic and a coachability, then how many other people are missing out? How many other people are limiting themselves because somebody else offered a limiting label? And then my Goalcast came out, and it was supposed to be viewed by 2 million. It went to 100 million, and I received over 30,000 personal messages. They keep on coming in every day. I realized that there's a lot of people out there that are living a limited version of themselves based on bad programming from their parents primarily, and other caretakers that told them, if you don't eat your broccoli, you're not a good boy. If you don't go to church, then God will punish you. And all these labels that were designed to direct them, but didn't necessarily give them the best version of themselves. So the I Am Movement podcast is about talking to thought leaders and asking them how they overcame their limitations from their environment and programming and came out to be the better version of themselves. And I'm really excited about that, because that's the hero's journey. That's the journey we're all on. It doesn't matter whether you're J-Lo who grew up in the Bronx, or you're somebody that grew up in Beverly Hills. You have your own personal journey of overcoming whatever it is that has been your program. I had a girl who grew up in California and had parents that told her every day she was a perfect child, beautiful. She was a gorgeous girl, that that the world was her oyster, and she ended up taking over their business and had a beautiful horse in a barn and a dream of every girl. And then we found out that, she suffered from insomnia when she came to one of my events, and that she was depressed. And the reason was is she's lived her entire life afraid of letting her parents down. Some people feel they're not enough because, like myself and other people, they grew up in an environment that was hostile and they didn't have the emotional support. And other people grow up feeling they're not enough because they're afraid to fail and disappoint people that have given them opportunities. So it doesn't matter where you came from. It matters the meaning and the interpretation you have of the events of your past and the tools you have going forward. So this podcast is designed to create awareness around how you see yourself, how you've described yourself, and can you rewrite? Can you become a new director, producer, and writer of the rest of your life? And when you decide to own that, you can now say, yeah, in the past, I was like this client of mine that I worked with just a few months ago. He was 65, overweight, dieting, and we changed his identity to athlete. Within 9 months, he lost 65 pounds. And then for the first time in 40 years, was under 200 pounds. And then was able to go skating with his grandson for an hour and a half instead of for 4 minutes, because he was out of weight, out of shape, and out of breath. When you change people's identity, willpower steps aside and they just identify with the new way of being. An athlete doesn't eat potato chips for 4 hours at nighttime on a couch and drink 17 Diet Cokes. An athlete makes a different choice. And when you come from that core place, you give people permission to, with a lot less effort, change their behavior. And so that's the genesis behind it.
Powerful stories right there, man, especially with the older man who became an athlete basically and had that athletic mindset that you gave him and lost over 65 pounds in 9 months. My goodness.
Yeah, and there's other elements. We gave him leverage, and we gave him support, and he measured things. And there's pieces that go with it. I'm giving you the top view, but the thing that's interesting is, think about it. If your entire life you saw yourself and you kept on telling yourself, I'm overweight and I diet and I tried this diet and tried that diet, etc., that becomes your identity. That's how you see yourself, right? And then with one shift, his grandson was a leverage, but with one shift in perception, a new set of glasses he could wear, he made new choices, and he was committed to those new choices. And he's now a completely, it's so beautiful. He sends me pictures of him skating. He looks like a different man. And his grandson, he connects with him. And so these are that's the power behind identity. In the same way that if your identity is you're bad with managing money and you'll never amount to much, you won't change the outside result until you do the work on the inside result. So success is an inside job.
Amen to that. Amen to that. Man, so many gems coming out of this man, my friend. So many gems, so many gems. You're going to have a necklace. I'm probably going to have a necklace and a couple tennis bracelets full of wisdom. That's what this man's dropping, baby. Because when you make that new decision, you got to commit to it and you got to manage it if you're going to sustain it. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. My man, Rock Thomas, baby, giving that solid boulder knowledge, baby, that boulder wisdom. That's right. Well, all right. Coming down to the question that every guest gets to answer, and that is, if you're to wake up tomorrow and you are 25 again, but this time in the current year of 2020, with all of your knowledge, experience, and even though you probably can't leave your house still if it was tomorrow, what advice would you give to yourself?
Gosh, there's so many things I learned. One thing is that the fast way to success is the slow way. So chip away, make good decisions. Don't wait to buy real estate. Buy real estate and wait. It always seems expensive at the time that you're going to buy it. And then 5 years later, you think I should have bought more. Surround yourself with people that will support, encourage, and challenge you to be the best version of yourself. Surround yourself with people that are winners. Your mentors are comfortable with your future. Your friends are comfortable with your present. You need mentors to pull you forward. Make relationships really important. People are important. Things can be replaced. Understand that people have seasons in their life, and that when your friend, colleague, business partner is going through a winter of their life, and you think they should be in a summer and producing and more responsive, maybe help them get through that winter so that you become stronger in your relationship with that person versus cutting them out and expecting them to be in the summer all the time. Have rituals in the morning and evening that serve you for who you are. Things that work for me are meditation, yoga, exercise, reading, journaling, working out, auditing my day at the end of the day and thinking about the things that I did well, the things I could improve, the things I'm proud of, and celebrating some of the small things, not waiting for me to go to the moon and back to be happy, but happily achieving along the way by recognizing the person I made smile, the laugh that I had, the difference I made. And recognizing that the people that are closest to you have a past that sometimes you don't really like, and you keep on wanting to be different instead of embracing that they are just doing the best they can with the resources they have. For the first time in my life, at the age of 83, 3 days ago, my mother voluntarily told me she loves me.
Wow.
That's a long time to wait.
Wow.
To hear that. And my girlfriend looked at me and she goes, did I just hear what, because we were on speakerphone. She goes, did I just hear her say that? She started to say it after we would say it. Okay, I love you too, which was beautiful. And then she was the first one that said it. So God's delays are not God's denials. Stay the course, have faith. Faith is seeing, which is believing what you can't see. And good things to come to those that are patient. So those are just a couple off the top of my head.
Well, forget the necklace and the tennis bracelet. My man's making a whole belly dancer skirt of wisdom with that one. My goodness.
You cracked me up, man. You see, you'll be in my journal tonight when I think about moments where I really had a really good laugh. I'm going to journal about that, and that's one of the things that makes each day magical. Is you don't have to win the lottery, or you don't have to put in 20 wells in Africa every day. You just remember those few moments where you had a really good belly laugh, and so thank you for that.
Woohoo! My pleasure indeed. My pleasure indeed. That's one of the goals. Make the folks laugh and have a brighter day, because we all need it.
Yes, sir.
Woohoo! Definitely right there. And I'm glad your mom was able to say that she loved you, man. That's great, man. That is great. It took a long time, but I'm glad it finally happened, man. That's very powerful, because it's strange that some folks it may take that long for some people.
Yeah, you probably know a good story. I have to find a good story there's one of this guy who I think a mason or whatever they call them. He's smashing a boulder with a sledgehammer, and there's not even a scratch on it, and he keeps on hitting and hitting and hitting and hitting it. And it's weakening the inside of this boulder, but there's not even a scratch on the surface. And then with one blow, the thing cracks open and breaks in two. But I think that's a good story like that, a great metaphor for life is I just kept on loving my mom and kept on, doing things that made her feel more loved and more safe and more appreciated. And eventually she felt the love that she never got as a child. And she was able then to love herself enough or feel loved or feel safe or whatever to then express it to me. So I think it's a lot of life. Like, just sometimes you get zero results. Like, you can plant a seed, but you're not going to see anything for 2 weeks, but you got to take care of it and water it. And I think a lot of people aren't willing to do that. But when you're willing to do that, I say, when you pay the price of practice in private, you get to perform in public like a pro. And most people don't want to pay that price because they don't understand that you need to plant and water and nourish before you get to harvest. So yeah, it was a long time harvesting, but it was very, very sweet.
The years as a farm boy paid off, right?
There you go. Farm boy metaphors keep on coming.
Woohoo! Beautiful. Well, for those who want to keep in magical contact with you, what's the best way for folks to reach out to you?
rockthomas.com is my website. rock@rockthomas.com is my email, social media, my podcast. I'm reachable. I'm for those that are persistent, you can get through to me, and happy to contribute wherever you are in the journey, whether it's a free book or listening to the podcast or learning more about our intimate mastermind circles and stuff like that. Whatever we can do to help you move the needle forward and be your personal best would be our honor. So thank you so much for having me drop by your beautiful podcast.
Woohoo! Thanks for sharing all your wisdom. Well, maybe not, that ain't all your wisdom, but sharing some of your wisdom with us, man. I'm very grateful for that. So definitely, folks, you definitely want to follow this man, the reachable, real deal Rock Thomas himself, baby. Go on out there. Check out his podcast. He's got some great guests out there, some powerhouse guests that is dropping some great content. So it's like a thought leader's dinner table with this man. I mean, it's got him and the other folks with him, like Marianne Williamson and countless other people. So check it out like a library book, folks. How's it going, you showstopper? It's great that you enjoyed this episode of the Going North podcast. If you really enjoyed it, be sure to shoot the guest an email or head over to the social media pages and leave them a nice response that you heard them on the Going North podcast, so that way they can continue to be inspired to do great things. And be sure to share this podcast with others that you think would enjoy it as well, because we want to inspire as many people as possible to live their dreams, embrace them, and to do something positive.